Last year's playoffs gave us a budding rivalry in the NBA between the Memphis Grizzlies and Golden State Warriors. It's a clash of the next generation with the Memphis Grizzlies versus the old guard with the defending champion Golden State Warriors. This year's Christmas Day matchup took a little bit of a hit with the untimely injury to Steph Curry. If you're Adam Silver, if you're the NBA, you want your stars playing on Christmas Day. This has been the thing you've owned. This has been your space to occupy while the NFL has had Thanksgiving. Unfortunately for you too, the NFL also will be playing on Christmas Day, as that's just the way the calendar worked out. So NBA ratings are going to be taking a little bit of a hit this year. This game took a hit because it loses a little bit of star power. What's your evaluation of these teams as we kind of start talking about more meaningful basketball heading into late December?
Before I talk about that, I will say for the NBA, the good news is your two best matchups, which includes this Grizzlies Warriors game, they're going up against Broncos and Rams, so I think they'll be okay in terms of winning the ratings battle against the NFL. But
you say that, but preseason games blow up in ratings. Pro Bowl games blow up in ratings.
Yeah, but like you really want
to
you want to watch Brett Ripien. You want to watch Brett Ripien.
I don't, but we know that there are bettors. We know that there are fantasy players, and we know stuff happens. We know the culture. We know how it works.
Yeah. Some people are just exclusively football fans, and they will consume whatever crappy football you put in front of them. But except football. But I will be watching Grizzlies and Warriors. And the reason I will be watching Grizzlies and Warriors is some of those talking points that you said earlier as we were leading into it. Obviously, Steph Curry's not going to be there, and they've kind of replaced him with Dante DiVincenzo in the starting lineup at this point. It's been a weird mix match the Warriors have been trying to replace the production of Steph Curry. And Memphis has been, as you foretold at the beginning of the season, Memphis has been genuinely one of the two or three best teams in the Western Conference coming back without replacing really anyone on their roster. Like, they've come back and have continued to essentially pick up where they left off in the regular season last year in terms of, being, as Phoenix is kind of in the in-between. Golden State, we've talked about them and their injury situation, and really just being 2-13 on the road, which is certainly cause for concern that the Warriors are now in this transitional phase. But Memphis is really, really good. And I think Jaren Jackson Jr. getting back has made a big difference for them. If you want to find like a comparison point between last year and this year and what it's looking like, Dylan Brooks kind of is what he is at this point, and Ja Morant is 23 years old, so Ja Morant is going to take that next step eventually and get into, he's going to finish top 10 in the MVP this year, so I don't want to say MVP conversation. I don't know if Ja Morant will ever win an MVP, but he's one of the 10 best players in the NBA, and there is no dispute about that at this point, and Memphis has really been rolling to start the year, which is why I like that even though Steph Curry is gone, the game is going to be played in Golden State. So at the very least, the game being played in San Francisco will make it a little bit more interesting, because as we know, the Warriors are 12-3 at home this year.
Chase Center is hands down one of the best home court advantages in basketball. I think for the Memphis Grizzlies, it wasn't about adding things or losing things. It was just about the things on the roster improving and getting better. Ja Morant, is he better than last year's version of Ja Morant? Ja Morant last year was pretty damn good, but I know Desmond Bane is really good this year. Desmond Bane is averaging 24 points a game. He's shooting 45% from three-point range. 45%. He's literally shooting the lights out of the gym. You mentioned Jaren Jackson's been out with injury. Getting him back is a huge win for this roster. And they've gone the same level of production from the pieces last year that elevated them to being the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. That's why Memphis isn't going away. And as long as they keep this core group of players around, they're going to be good. They don't necessarily need to bring in what we think of as a top 5 superstar. They can hope that maybe Ja Morant can ascend to that level. Do you look at like a guy like Jason Tatum, who a couple of years ago, we didn't think of him as a top 10 player, but now he's firmly in that top 10, top 5 discussion. Ja Morant can be that. And if you're averaging 26, obviously we know the shortcomings of Ja, as a shooter, he still could be a little bit more efficient, but I don't think that really defines him. The level of energy he brings to this team is kind of why this Grizzlies team they just have an aura about them. They have an aura of like a young team that's on the come up that kind of was, when I think about like the Warriors back in the day, kind of have a little bit of that Warriors vibe to them. Without Steph, I know who's going to win this matchup. It's going to be the Grizzlies. I'm going to go with the Grizzlies, even in Chase Center, to win, because I think they're just a more well-rounded team. As you mentioned, the Warriors will try and move around pieces to make it work. But the reason the Warriors have been struggling this year is the inconsistencies of the young guys. Are the young guys more consistent? I haven't seen that level of consistency, especially when they go on the road. They haven't been consistent. Draymond's having a nice bounce back season, but he can't drive the offense for them. And Klay, he has a good performance here, a good performance there, but even his level of consistency isn't where it used to be. Memphis, you know what you're getting on a more night in, night out basis, and that's why I feel like they're going to be the better team going into this game.
Well, for Golden State, it's turning from the young guys into the young guy, and that guy is Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole has been the guy of the youngsters who has stepped up. The Warriors got their third win on the road on Sunday, this previous Sunday against Toronto. Jordan Poole had 43 points in that game, put up basically Steph Curry numbers, and that was the way that the Warriors would have to play in order to get wins like that. And to your point about Memphis, like in the long term, like the long-term conversation about Memphis, like their roster is not complete, but their roster is very good. They need a second all-star caliber player to pair with Ja Morant. Maybe Desmond Bane gets to that place. That's
close. When I think about him versus, again, I compare Ja to Jason Tatum. When I compare him against Jaylen Brown, Desmond Bane, with that, if you're shooting 45%, if you're giving a 45% shooting effort from 3-point range, you're going to be knocking on that door for second tier stars.
Yeah, well, I guess second tier stars is a way. I call it like tier 4, because like I think of Ja Morant as a second tier star. Like he's not Giannis, he's not Jokic, he's not those guys, but he's a second tier star.
But on an NBA roster, not like in the grand NBA pyramid.
A player who, when Ja Morant has, for example, a 6-point game like he did against the Thunder a few nights ago, when he has a 6-point game, they don't just lose that offensive production and they lose to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is actually pretty good, but they lose to Oklahoma City by 9 points because Ja Morant only had 6 points. Like someone else to carry that workload for him.
Well, and it helps with Desmond Bane that he kind of works off of what Ja does well. He works off of Ja's skill set, because if Ja commands as much attention as he does going to the rack, then that's going to allow more open looks for a guy like Bane, and that's may be contributing to that number that we're seeing.
Exactly. And again, Desmond Bane is in his 3rd season. He's an incredibly young player who's still growing into that. Perhaps he will be that very soon, maybe in a couple years. Now,
I think the Celtics drafted like Romeo Langford over him.
Yeah, that one didn't turn out great for them, shall we say. But like this is the classic like Tyler Hero, Bradley Beal conversation that was being had a couple years ago, which is like, why would you would get the player who currently is what you think the ceiling for that player is. So like maybe the example this year is like Zach LaVine versus Desmond Bane. If you're Memphis and you're offered Zach LaVine for Desmond Bane and draft picks, it's like, well, you could get the guy who could one day become Zach LaVine, or you get Zach LaVine. That's kind of like the weird conversation that's there. But besides the point, that doesn't take away from the fact that Memphis is a really, really good team. They are capable of winning first round and possibly second round playoff series. The Western Conference doesn't really have a team this year that kind of feels like Boston and Milwaukee in the East. So to say Memphis could make a run to the NBA Finals with the current core that they have right now is not out of the question. So I'm with you. I'm going to take Memphis, and I think that Memphis is in a very, very interesting position, and I can't wait to watch them play playoff series against either Denver or against the Clippers or against Dallas or against Phoenix, or quite possibly, based on how things are breaking down right now, against this very same Golden State Warriors team. Maybe a 7-2 or a 6-3 matchup once Steph Curry gets healthy. It's not out of the realm of possibility that these two teams match up in a playoff series again.
Okay, guys, drop below in the comment section. Who are you picking on Christmas Day? Will it be Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies versus the Golden State Warriors without Steph? I'd like to hear your thoughts, especially about the Steph injury and how that impacts them moving forward. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all our social medias. I'm Juju and Kyle. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. We'll see you next time.